everyone. Happy Halloween. This is Hick'ry Hawkins. I have a very special, true Halloween story to share with you. I've only told maybe a handful of people this story in my entire life. And a couple of people believed it, the other people did not. So, see what you think about this. But I think I was around 4, 5, 5, 6. Long time ago, in Nichols, South Carolina, which is a very small town on the North Carolina border with South Carolina. At the time, I lived in my grandmother's house, my step-grandmother, with my mom and stepdad and step-grandparents. So my mother and my stepdad, they had their own room, and I slept directly across from that room out in this long hallway. I had this really big crib bed. So that's where I slept. Now, at the end of this long hallway in this very big house, at the end of this long hallway, on one side of that hallway was my grandparents' room. Directly opposite their room was an empty guest room. It was empty all the time. And even later, anytime I was in that room, you felt this just overwhelming sense of pressure, just some sort of pressure. You didn't want to be in that room. So I never went in there, even when I got older. So between these two bedrooms was the big door to the back porch, which led into a huge ass yard, right? It's country people. Now the door had this small window in the door. So at night, as I was sleeping, I would look way down the hallway. It's a pretty long hallway. I would look way down the hallway at the moonlight that would shine through the window in the door. The way the moonlight would shine through that window, it would light up maybe 2 to 3 feet of the hallway in front of it. So you would see the moonlight on the floor of the hallway. And I would just kind of stare at the moonlight and the glow on the floor until I'd lulled myself to sleep. Well, one night, I saw what looked like a person appear in this moonlight. It was as if it had walked through the porch door into the moonlight. I never saw that door open, but I saw this shadow thing in the moonlight of the door. Even though it's a very long hallway, I can make out that it was a very tall human. Already not as tall as my granddad, especially not my grandmother. So right away I knew it wasn't them. And I did not see this come from the left or the right. This came directly through this door out of nowhere. And so I kept my eyes open and I saw this thing walk towards me down the hallway. Now this hallway was very dark. No night lights, no anything. And as this thing entered the darkness, it looked darker than the darkness around it. I could make out definition. I couldn't see eyes or a face, but I could make out the definition, the outline. It was as if it was a silhouette of Superman, very tall, male, broad shoulders, broad chest. No one in that house looked like that. All of my people are very short, tiny people. Now I watched this thing walk all the way down the hall, making out muscle definition and silhouette, and it came up to my bed. At this point, I shut my eyes really tight and I started I don't know if I was actually praying, but for a little kid, I probably was, but I just kept my eyes shut very tight. and I felt myself being lifted out of this bed, but it did not feel like being carried by human arms. I didn't feel like I was floating, but I didn't feel like these arms were human. But I was lifted up, and I still my eyes very tightly shut, and I heard a grunt. I heard a grunt that went, and then I felt myself being lowered back down. And I remember at that age thinking, when I was once again down in the bed, I remember thinking, with my eyes still closed, that it should be going away now. This thing should be going away. I don't know why, but I opened my eyes and it was going away. Now I could make out the definition. I knew it had turned its back to me, even though you could not see any features except the outline. Muscle definition, it's still blacker than the blackness around it. And I watched this thing walk back down the hallway and into where the moonlight shone through the window. And it simply disappeared. It didn't disintegrate. I didn't see mist or turning to ash or anything, just gone. But I know this, it did not turn to the right or the left. It disappeared as soon as it hit the moonlight. Now, this is just part one of this story. I have some other parts coming because I saw this thing at other points in my life. But at that point, from being that young, I did not see anything like this again until I was much older. Now, I remember telling my mother about it and my grandmother, and they dismissed it, telling me it was nightmares. But I know to this day, because I have seen it on other occasions, so I know it was not a nightmare. So whatever this thing was, it's real. So that's a true Halloween story. Part 2 is coming later tonight or this weekend, because I will be celebrating Halloween until Monday. So let me know, everybody, what you think, if you've seen a thing like that, what it could or be or isn't, if I'm crazy. But happy Halloween, everybody. Be scary and be safe and have a good time.